an airplane. The leadership is your cockpit, the right engine your marketing, the left engine your sales, the wings are your products, the body is your overhead, and the fuel tanks are your cash flow. If you can master the 6 parts of running a small business, you are destined to fly far and fast.
Today we're focusing on the body of your airplane, overhead and operations. If you want to maximize productivity by hiring and working with a virtual assistant, then you're going to love today's member-exclusive webinar.
Hey friends, welcome to How to Maximize Your Productivity with a Virtual Assistant. I'm Donald Miller, CEO of Business Made Simple. Thanks for joining us today. Well, if you have joined this webinar, you probably want a virtual assistant, but you're worried. And I completely understand because I was exactly where you were for about 4 years. I've spent 4 years, at least 4 years in that space of should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? I'm so tired of figuring out my calendar, all that kind of stuff. And it was finally a friend of mine said, Don, you just have to do it. It's going to be about 2 weeks of discomfort, and you just got to do it. And he was absolutely right. Hired a virtual assistant. 2 weeks later, everything was so much better. And when I say everything was so much better, what I really mean is I was not having to do so much of the stuff that I don't like to do, and I was able to focus on the stuff that I like to do, which, by the way, was writing. I wanted to free up my writing schedule. Instead, I was booking flights, I was returning emails, all of that kind of stuff. And so my life changed dramatically when I hired a virtual assistant. Now, I hired a virtual assistant, so it wasn't a permanent assistant, and I started at only about 10 hours a week. And they were paying them for 10 hours a week. They were handling my schedule and some of my correspondence, and then worked all the way up to 40 hours and basically had a full-time assistant. So it scaled up pretty quickly. But I would say that first 10-hour hire probably, I don't want to exaggerate, but it's been many, many years. But I would say probably saw a 100% increase in my productivity, at least on the things that matter to me, and easily a 100% increase in revenue. And so that was probably more than a 20x return on my investment in a virtual assistant. It's that important and foundational as a business decision for you to free up your time and be able to do what you do best, and what makes the company the most money. Not only have I hired virtual assistants for myself, but I hired them for my team members. Because I'll see somebody that I want to focus on this specific project. Please focus on this, it's very important. And I see them beginning to do work on their schedule and their correspondence and managing different members of their team, all that sort of stuff. And it becomes obvious to me, okay, they need a virtual assistant, and that's going to be an investment for me and my company because I'm going to get more productivity out of these folks. So if you are here today, remember I told you about my friend who bothered me for years about hiring a virtual assistant? I am now your friend bothering you about hiring a virtual assistant. But I want to do it without shaming or guilting you. I grew up Southern Baptist, so I know that is effective, but we try not to do that around here. Instead, I want to actually go through many of that was not a blow on Southern Baptists. I love Southern Baptists, but it's like a Catholic joke. You can only tell it if you are one. Anyway, so I want to go through some of the hesitations that I had, and the best person that I could think of to be able to do that is Tricia Sciortino. Tricia is CEO of BELAY Solutions out of Atlanta, Georgia, and she runs a company with hundreds of virtual assistants. And that's what they do. You find a virtual assistant through them. That is the company that I used, and I had a great experience. And so another reason that I wanted Tricia to come on. But we're going to ask her some questions about finding your virtual assistant, on-ramping your virtual assistant. What's the first task that you want to give them? What are those first few weeks going to be like? All of that kind of stuff, all of that cloudy, foggy stuff that's keeping you from making the decision. We're going to cover that on today's webinar. So with that, Tricia Sciortino, welcome to our webinar today. It's good to have you.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Tricia, tell us before we even get started talking about our new virtual assistant that we will hopefully have soon. You are the CEO of the company, but I happen to know, because we're friends, that you actually started as a virtual assistant and worked your way all the way up to the top. Is that right?
I did. I was the first virtual assistant back in 2010 when the company was founded. And
Wait, you were the
have
very
been
first virtual assistant?
Yes.
This is
I
an
was the
amazing
first
American success
assistant,
story. You should be running for
right?
Senate or something and telling this story, because it's amazing.
It is. A first virtual assistant starting at 5 hours a week, Don, back in 2010. And now I'm the CEO of a company that helps others find their virtual assistants. So
How many
it's been a
virtual
great ride.
assistants? How many virtual assistants do you guys have on your, not staff, but that you work with?
Yeah, over 2,000 virtual assistants right now.
Wow. I think last time I asked that question, you were at like 400. I mean, it's just the growth is astronomical.
It's been amazing. Yes, it's actually just speaks to how precise we can get that match for our clients, right? I mean, we have endless opportunities of virtual assistants and ones with very specific skill sets or personality traits, so that you're kind of getting the one that's best for you.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I can speak to that. And Tricia, because the firm we use is BELAY Solutions, but my assistant actually has an assistant. And so, because I was like, I want you thinking about my schedule, not your schedule. And I literally sat down Carrie and said, Carrie, your virtual assistant should handle date night. They should be scheduling your haircuts. They should be taking care of your dry cleaning. They should be freeing you up to serve me. And I know that that's a very selfish thing to do, but at the same time, I didn't want them to think, I wanted them to make that job as easy as possible, knowing that it would increase all of our productivity. So maybe that's how you got 2,000, is your assistants are having assistants now, and it's just like multiplying like rabbits over there. All right, I shared a little bit of my story, and where I was, just to recap, before I hired an assistant, I was doing everything. My company was sub $1 million. I was managing my speaking. I was taking calls. I was responding to all my emails. And what this was doing, as a writer, I have to release a book at least every 2 years in order to just maintain. And as a writer, it was becoming harder and harder for me to get to that work. Because of all the success of the books themselves, I was having to interact with fans and having to book my own speaking and do all that kind of stuff. And I was losing track of my writing. And I think there was one year, I believe it was more than 3 years before I actually got another book done. Now, every March, I release a book. And that is because of the people who help me and do the things that I don't want to do that free me up to write. So it's pretty amazing what a difference it makes. But let me ask you, what are some of the signs that somebody needs to hire a virtual assistant? What are some of the red flags and the lights going on the dashboard that we need to pay attention to?
Yeah, I would say the first one is absolutely you're missing things inside of your business. You might be dropping balls on things are falling between cracks. You're becoming less effective doing everything. And you recognize that it's time that somebody else has to come in and support that. That you don't want that to equal a bad experience for your clients, because you're having a hard time keeping up with the work. Alongside that is really just the sentiment that there's overwhelm, and you're working too much. Is your work creeping into your life? Are you limiting your time with family and friends and loved ones because you're growing, and it just means you're working more because you're growing? And then lastly is, in all of that work, are you focused on the things that are just not the revenue generating things as the business owner? To your point, are you spending endless hours a day in email and scheduling things when you should be thinking of where you're getting your next client from, and things like that? So those are 3 key areas that we see. It's probably time. We actually believe, if you could be proactive and get, the support you need before you hit the wall of overwhelm, or before you start working 12 hours and 14 hours a day, then you've done yourself and your business a great service.
Yeah. I have a friend who's actually my business coach, and he told me, Don, if there's no margin, there's no mission. And I think a lot of people are saying, well, I don't know if I'm overwhelmed, I'm really busy, but let me ask you this. How long has it been since you've come up with a really great idea? How long has it been since you went for a walk to think about it, or took a day to go drive out in the country and consider a decision that you're about to make? And almost everybody watching this webinar would say, well, it's been over a year, or at least months. When you talk about driving out into the country and going for a walk to think about a decision, this is something I haven't done in 5 years. And the reason that you haven't done that is because there's just too much other stuff that you need to do. And so one of the things that a virtual assistant does is they do that stuff so that you can have that margin and so that you can accomplish your mission. It's a huge thing. If you don't have margin, you don't have mission. So a lot of times what a virtual assistant does is giving us margin. Now let me say this. Here's another point of maybe an obstacle for me before I hired an assistant is that I don't like working my own schedule. I don't like sifting through my emails. I don't like researching and finding out somebody who can dry clean my clothes and pick it up on my porch. I don't like scheduling my haircut. So I feel guilty hiring somebody to do that stuff for me because this is work that nobody likes to do. That was not true. I found out very, very quickly. And I think most people watching this webinar already know that there are people who like doing different things that you don't like doing. But what I was shocked is that Melissa, the assistant that I hired through you guys, loved that stuff. She saw going on Expedia and booking flights as like a Sudoku puzzle. She just loved it. She loved figuring out where, if I fly Don through here, he can do this. And if he leaves here, he can do this. And here's his TSA number. Stuff that would drive me crazy. So there are people who actually love doing the things that you don't like doing. And all of us have different things that we like and don't like. So my obvious question is, how do you find an assistant who really likes it? It's not a chore for them to do the things that you don't like doing. How do you find that assistant?
Yeah, well, first I think it's deciding what are those things exactly. I think everyone's unique. I mean, there are some core things we say you can expect, travel planning, meeting scheduling, maybe email communications, but specifically thinking through what is it I'm trying to offload first and foremost, so you know what you need in that assistant you're about to go search for. And that will help narrow the pool right there, is to just have clarity on what they're going to do for you. And then I would say, you have a couple of options. You can go source that person yourself, create a job description and start sourcing through friends, neighbors, local community, Facebook. You can do this sourcing on your own. Or there's a lot of agencies like BELAY and others out there that do that hard part for you. So at BELAY, we would take that list and your desired job description and say, we've got somebody for you exactly based on your needs, because we've done this for 13 years. And we're able to kind of really find the virtual assistant that meets the exact criteria that you need.
Yeah.
So it's a very unique thing. That there's a lot of behavioral aspects to it, and there's a lot of skill set aspects to it, and both of them together really, really end you on the match that you're looking for.
Do you do an intake session if somebody wants an assistant? Do you help them put together that list and figure it out themselves, or do you expect them to come to you with that list?
Yeah, no, we will help. I mean, most of the time we speak with our clients who have just decided, they've made the decision that they want to work with a virtual assistant, and they might not be sure where to begin or where to start. So we will have a consultation and a discovery session with you to kind of really talk through what is bogging you down most, what are the things you dislike most, you want to get off your plate immediately, what are the things that you're spending most of your time on that you need to reduce that. So we'll walk you through that in our discovery call, and that will help our team really decide what's going to be, the right solution, or who's going to be the right person for you.
Yeah, and you guys were amazing. I mean, I've had 2 assistants through you, and you guys have been just absolutely. I've been blown away by the match. I don't know that I could have found somebody. I didn't know that somebody like Melissa existed. And so for me, it's, that was pretty phenomenal. I think
you.
another hesitance. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to add on to that, first of all, thank you. But we spend a lot of time on the match part. We actually feel like that is literally the secret sauce. That is the differentiator that we bring, and it's where we focus a lot of time is, you can't just check a box and pick the first name off of a sheet or bring on the first resume. The intentionality that goes into the who and two who's, working well together is really important. So regardless of what avenue you may go down, the right person and the right match is probably the make or break decision.
Yeah, and
when you get started.
I got to be honest, Tricia. When I first heard you guys talking about that, I don't know that I actually believed you. I thought, well, no, they're pulling names out of a hat, and of course that's what they're going to say. We're going to find the right match for you. But it was very obvious, because it actually took a minute. It was very obvious that you guys were sifting through who would want to work with a writer. And as I shared my liabilities, one of my liabilities that is a strength for my writing career, but a liability, is I don't actually like managing people. I don't want to check in with somebody every day, and I don't want to micromanage you. And there are other people who like doing that stuff, and it's natural to them. So I needed somebody who could be sort of self-motivated, and their morale wouldn't go down if they didn't talk to me every day. And we worked together for years. In fact, the only reason she ever left, she gave me a very long runway. She started her own coaching career, which I was super excited about that for her. And so really, really cool that you guys are able to do that. So I vouch for what Tricia's actually saying there, that they really do this. One of the things that I think would be a hesitancy or a challenge for some people, maybe a bit of cognitive dissonance that they don't realize that this is what it is that this is a new close relationship. I mean, you're going to work with this person. They are going to be inside of your email box if you want them to. They are going to be booking flights. They're going to know a lot about your life. That's a relationship that is going to be built. How do you build a healthy relationship with a new assistant? What are some best practices as it relates to us being comfortable sooner with this new team member in our lives?
Yeah, I mean, I 1,000% agree with what you're saying, Don. It is to be the most effective. This is a relationship that you should invest in, because to your point, you will get 20x back if you invest here. I think in order to invest, there's a couple of things. I mean, the first thing is you make time up front. Give them the time that they need. There's a lot of relational capital that you really want to put in here that will pay off in the end. So the first thing I would say is make the time to create the relationship. Be absolutely open and honest with great feedback in live time. Extend trust, which is a big one for a lot of people. If you've made the decision to use a virtual assistant, they will be most effective if they are in your inbox. And some people find reluctance with that. And I say extend trust, give them access to you, all parts of you, so they can truly understand how they can help you. If you want them to be proactive, you really got to set them up to see what a day in your life looks like. And that means giving them access to you. And then as always, we would say, feedback and lots of appreciation and gratitude goes a very long way.
Yeah, I discovered that probably more than a year in, that sending a gift to Melissa and her family was a big deal, and building that trusting relationship. And also, what was amazing to me was if you email me, it actually goes to my assistant, and then my assistant reads it and forwards me anything that they think I actually need to read that they won't respond to. And I would say that cut down the number of emails I was responding to by 90%. I have a secret email address that my friends and family can email, but the public email address, that they're cutting my emails by 90%. So they're reading everything and understanding. My assistant knows I want to sit in a specific seat on an airplane and tries to grab that specific seat. They just know everything about your life. They know the restaurants that my wife wants to send. This is terrible, but before I was married, because we worked with a virtual assistant for a very long time, Tricia, my mother would book time with me through my assistant. And it's not that she didn't have
You're
my phone number.
maximizing that relationship.
Yeah,
yes.
she had my phone number and my email address. My mom could just call me. She was my mom, for crying out loud. But she knew if she called my assistant, she would actually get my undivided attention because I would show up on my calendar. She would show up on my calendar. That's a terrible story to tell. I shouldn't have told that story. But my mom and I had a great relationship because my assistant was able to put us together.
I love it.
Pretty awesome. Okay, you have an assistant. Is it a him? His name is Cameron, or is it her?
It's a she, Cameron.
It's a she, Cameron.
It's a
Okay.
It's a she, Cameron. Yeah.
All right, tell us the story of how you on-ramped Cameron and how the first part of that relationship worked, so we can all understand better from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm thoughtfully prepared for her to join me, which meant I took time to really think through what would onboarding look like for her, what would a training plan look like for her, what is everything I want her to be able to do and learn, and if I could prepare for her to start, she would get a jump start. And so the first thing I did was really kind of put down on paper, like, what are all of my preferences and favorite things? Like you said, Don, like, okay, I prefer a window seat. I don't want to be at the bulkhead because I want to have my bag at my feet. Like little things like that.
Right.
Really
you and I see it exactly.
everything.
We have the exact same preference.
Do you?
Yeah,
No?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as soon as you fly, like on your 40th flight, you know exactly where you want to be on that airplane.
Absolutely. So I have all my preferences. So I kind of created a preferences doc, and I just kind of started writing down what are all the things that I like. Am I using Marriott, my Marriott points, and I use American, and here's my frequent flyer miles numbers, and gathering up, here are my favorite restaurants in town. I like to take date night once a month, and it could be at any of these. Here are my kids' names, here's their activities, gathering everything in one place that she could use for access, and then creating a lot of training opportunities alongside me, which in the beginning was scheduling one-on-one time with her first couple weeks, like every other day, for an hour or so, to really walk through specific things like, here's how I like my calendar, here's how you can respond to emails. We created some templates together so she can respond to emails on my behalf. I walked through an ideal work week template, so she has something to work off of. So she knows things like, I don't like to take meetings after 3 p.m. every day. I don't take meetings on Fridays. Fridays are meeting free day for me because, to your earlier point, I need bandwidth. I need think time. I think as leaders, we forget that the best value we bring to our organization is thinking about what it is we want to be doing. So having think days, and then she knows the cadence with which I meet different team members. So kind of laying everything out for her, putting all the groundwork in there. So when she came on her first couple weeks, it was like just following through the plan that I have laid out for her. Now that's maybe not ideal for everyone. And a lot of that can be built as you go, and your virtual assistant can guide you through those things with some great templates that like BELAY provides to walk you through. But preparation, empower her to just go for it, even if she makes a mistake, and trust that she's going to do her absolute best.
Yeah. And you say, know that she might make some mistakes. I mean, I honestly, Melissa was my assistant for about 3 years before she started her own coaching business, and I honestly do not remember a single mistake. I remember showing up at the airport in Paris, and I was at the wrong airport, and I looked at my itinerary, and she had it right. I went to the wrong airport. That's the only. It's just everything else went unbelievably smooth. So.
I have definitely messed up a couple things. I'm going to be honest. I have definitely, when I was an assistant, I've definitely messed up a couple things. But I think, that's human nature. Not everyone's perfect. But I think, you own your mistake, you acknowledge you made the mistake, and you swiftly course correct and fix the mistake.
Yeah.
And that's what you would expect. That's great character. That's great work ethic, is that
right.
Just acknowledge it, go forth, and fix it.
Well, you've got a really great assistant when you don't want to disappoint them. That's when you know you have a really great assistant. Okay, so let's talk through the tasks immediately that you will want to delegate to your virtual assistant. And I'll go first here really quick. The very first one for me was schedule. She began to handle my schedule, and it got to the point where I no longer booked almost anything other than personal time. So I would say, if somebody wanted to get together, or if I wanted to get together with somebody, I would say, hey, can my assistant reach out to you to get us on the calendar? And that was it. And that's the only thing that I have to. I never have to look to see if I have time this Thursday. I never have to look. And I will tell my assistant, hey, can you reach out to so-and-so? Just did this yesterday. Was in Birmingham, Alabama, driving home. And there were after being in Birmingham, there were 3 different people I needed to get together with in the future. And just called my assistant and said, here's the 3 people. Here's the urgency of it. This person doesn't need me soon. This person needs me ASAP. And I will no longer worry about that. I will actually wake up someday, 2 weeks from now, and that person will be on my schedule. And I probably won't know what day that is until the morning that I wake up, or honestly the night before. As I go to sleep, I review tomorrow's deal. So scheduling was really, really huge for me at first. But I'm curious, what do you see as best practices for stuff that we want to hand that virtual assistant right away?
Yeah, scheduling and calendaring is typically the first most impactful place that you could start. I'm the same as you. I actually don't ever have to look at my calendar. And I have a personal and work calendar that overlay on top of each other, and she has access to both, and she can plan things for me personally and professionally, and it all is beautiful, and I never have to schedule anything. Actually, if I schedule something, I'm usually messing something up that she has in the works, and so I get my hands smacked and reminded not to touch the calendar. So she's on it. She's in charge. The next thing I would say is travel. I hate booking travel, so give her all the preferences, let her do travel. And then the next thing is really the email. And a lot of people are hesitant. It's so funny. There's like 2 schools of thought. There are those who are like, please take the email immediately first day. And then there's the other school of thought who says, that's a little too close for comfort. We're going to save that for a minute. But I really do believe email is where you're going to get great impact to allow them to be proactive. Even if your first few steps are for her to do nothing, he or him, to do anything with your email, as far as just be in it and see it. And maybe there's a season of time where they are viewing your email because it helps them understand what your work days and what your work life are looking like, so they can look for opportunities to serve you. And then maybe you take a baby step. You know, when I first started using an assistant for email, I was like, okay, 25% of my inbox I would love if you can handle. We started small. So it was like unsubscribing to things, filtering things into newsletters, quick replies that were just a thanks so much. And then we built up from there, moved up to the next thing is like, okay, well, now we've been in here long enough. I'd love you to handle 50% of my email, and on and on. So I think it's an evolution of giving it away, and you can do it very methodically and slowly and comfortable. But email to me is such a big opportunity. And then there's a lot of other little things. For me, one of the things that my assistant does for me, she is in most meetings with me. Not a one-on-one, but if I'm in executive team meetings or board meetings or leadership team meetings, she joins all the meetings and she does take notes for those meetings, which we distribute to our team. But the best part is she captures all the action items from the meetings, has an action item template, and she's the one that is following up on the action items. So it takes that away from me. And that has been something that I struggled a lot with, is the follow-up of things. I don't want to be the follow-upper anymore. So now she's the follow-upper for me, and she can facilitate those action items getting done by just pinging people and saying, hey, on the last meeting, you said this is going to be due on Friday. Do you have it? It's Friday. I'm like, yes, it's amazing.
That's incredible. Yeah, and I affirm that these things are actually true. They're not just wishful thinking. I want to come back a little bit to a practice that you talked about, because I think it's one of the things that I did with my assistant, and it helped so much, and that is outline your perfect week. And so was really able to say to my assistant, look, every day that's possible until 11 a.m. and preferably 1 p.m., I want to be writing. And so the more we can get meetings after 1 p.m., the better. Now, 50% of days, amazingly, we are able to do that. There are days when I just have to take an 11 o'clock meeting. We obviously did a 10 a.m. Webinar this morning, so today wouldn't count. But, having that perfect week and having your virtual assistant protect your perfect week and try to recreate it over and over was a game changer. And, I said at the beginning, I used to write a book. It would take me 2 years and one time 3 years to get a book done. Now, that was when I was a solo writer on my own with no staff, and that was my only job. Now I have a staff of 30. I have a wife. I have a child and plenty of travel, and I get a book done every single year. And those books are selling as many copies as the books that I used to take 2 to 3 years to write. Hopefully they're just as well written. All of that, I would say, is largely because of I have a virtual assistant who is protecting my perfect week. And if you can duplicate that perfect week over and over, you can actually get more done and also have more margin. So part of my perfect week is, honestly, if you look at my calendar, it is loaded to the gills Monday through Friday, and there is nothing on the calendar Saturday and Sunday because my assistant knows nothing goes there. We take the weekend off, and every day at 5 o'clock, we're done. Nothing happens after 5 o'clock. That's family time. So that may sound luxurious to you, but what you've got to have in order to do that is you have to have somebody to sit down and create your perfect week with, and then somebody to defend it. One of the great things about your virtual assistant is they, unlike you, know how to say no. They say no.
I was just gonna say that.
I don't want to know about some of these opportunities, because I want my assistant to be. It's kind of like good cop, bad cop. I can say, that sounds really great. Let's get with my assistant. Let me give you their information. Let's see what's possible. And my assistant looks at that and says, this is not a priority for Don. We're not going to do this. And they'll ask me, Don, do you want to make a caveat? And I say, no, we promised we wouldn't do that, so we're going to have to let this one go. So those are great best practices in terms of beginning to delegate. Okay, I want to know, there's a lot of different virtual assistant companies. Many of them, and the new trend is to hire from overseas. So, you're hiring out of India, hiring out of, I think, the Philippines, probably out of Vietnam, a lot of places where there's just a lot of cheap labor. Very skilled, very intelligent folks. You guys haven't used that as a practice. Tell me about who you're choosing as your virtual assistants, and why not go a cheaper labor route with overseas labor?
Yeah, we made the decision when we started in 2010 that we would serve the U.S.-based, we would be a U.S.-based staffing organization. We would provide U.S.-based virtual assistants for a couple reasons. Little tactical and logistical things like time zones, they actually come into play more than you think, especially if you're more than 2 time zones apart from somebody. That's a big one. So we wanted to be mindful of that. We wanted there to be no cultural divide. We wanted there to be easy connection, and we didn't want there to be communication gaps and communication errors, which can sometimes happen when you're working with somebody outside of the country. There might be communication opportunities. And then we really wanted to help Americans get to work.
Yeah.
We wanted to provide a solution to, mostly women, if we're being honest, who are career-minded, but have decided they don't want to work full-time in an office anymore. They might have young children at home, but they're smart and they're intelligent and they want to do something that is great, but they want to do it fractionally and they want to do it remotely. And we wanted to give that opportunity to women all over the country. I was the first one who was given the opportunity as the first assistant. And I made the decision to leave, the career I was in before BELAY. I was traveling too much, I was working too long and too hard. My first daughter was born and I was missing things, like I missed the day she took her first steps. And I'm like, never again. So I want to do something different. And so this solution in the beginning was what I needed as a person, so that I could do great work and support great leaders fractionally, and feel like I was accessible. And now we get to honor so many people across this great country who want the same thing.
Yeah, and it's amazing how it's really mutually beneficial, because what you are getting in a virtual assistant is somebody with a bachelor's or master's degree, somebody who started their career, understands the professional workplace, and then paused in order to have kids. And so you're actually getting somebody that would cost you a lot more money if you had to hire them 40 hours a week and bring them in. And because you're able to do 15, 20, 30 hours a week, you're getting a better rate on somebody who's unbelievably skilled. Melissa knew software applications more than I knew. She knew, how to be a little more formal in email more than I did. She just had the tools that I didn't have, which I was just surprised. I was really surprised by that, because I thought, well, this is somebody who, the only job they can get is a virtual assistant job. It's actually not the case at all. It's the only job they want. They're actually much more qualified to do other things. And then the benefit for Melissa is she didn't have to pause her career. And so now the assistant's somebody, she's watching a company grow, she's watching how the publishing industry works, she's watching how business coaching works. So she was able to, when she was done being a virtual assistant, start her career on a much higher level than she probably would have if she wouldn't have taken a fractional job in order to be a great mom. I mean, it's just fantastic. I love how much of a feel-good story it is for everybody involved. Okay, let me ask you a couple.
We like to feel like we change people's lives, like on both sides of the coin. We're changing a leader's life in that they're getting the time they need to do the most important things, whether that's be with family or spend time writing or whatever those priorities are, that truly shape and change the trajectory and the future of their life. And then we're doing the same for our virtual assistants, in that they want to change, and we're allowing them freedom and access in a way that they've never been able to find before. So it's a very feel-good place to work, actually.
Yeah.
Here.
Okay. How long will it take for somebody to start feeling the positive effects of having hired a virtual assistant? How long will it take before the relief sets in and they begin to experience the benefits of hiring a virtual assistant? What have you seen?
Yeah, it can range from day one to a couple weeks, or maybe it's 30 days. Depends on what you're handing off and how quickly you're handing off. We have literally had clients who were prepared, we kicked off and started, and within 48 hours, they're like, I feel better already. She's already in my email. She's already unsubscribed to things. She's already cleaned out my box. She's already scheduling my next meeting. So it could be very quick. But I would say if you're intentional about your training, the average might be a couple of weeks where you will start to feel like, okay, I actually have stopped. I've stopped doing something already, and now I have hours in my day. I met one of our clients a few weeks ago. We met for coffee because they're local to me, and she has had a virtual assistant for about 6 months, and she runs a small social media management company, and this was like her third hire inside her company. We met for coffee, and she said, I would never be able to even have met you for coffee a couple months ago because my schedule was so slammed that this would not be possible. And this is possible, that I'm actually able to sit across the table from you because she has freed up my calendar and my time for me to be here with you. Oh, and by the way, instead of being a business owner, hustling and doing all day long, for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm a CEO. Yes, you're a CEO of a business.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's transformational. Let's just cover one thing before I want to get into what the first steps are to hire a virtual assistant. Melissa, my assistant, happened to be here in Nashville. That's not always the case. However, I only saw Melissa at all staff meetings. We would Zoom a little bit, but we would Slack back and forth messages, text message, email is mainly how we communicated. And occasionally, I would pick up the phone or she would pick up the phone. We'd talk. And I was really surprised at how unnecessary it was for them to be in the same room. And this was before COVID. So that was just a very natural way of doing it. Can you talk about what the expectations would be for how you would interact with your virtual assistant? How do most people communicate with their virtual assistant?
Yeah, I would say we recommend having a weekly one-on-one. We recommend having it on Zoom, especially in the beginning. You're getting to know each other, you're getting to see each other, facial expressions, body language. It's the next best thing to being in person. So I meet with my virtual assistant, Cameron, every Monday morning at 9 a.m. She is my first appointment of the week because we are meeting weekly on Mondays to set the week ahead and the work ahead. So that is what works for me, and we highly recommend that. Now, maybe it's not Monday morning, but for sure you want to have a tactical meet once a week. She builds the agenda for that meeting, so I just show up and she comes ready with all the things we need to talk about for the week ahead. You know, is there anything I need? She's updating me on things. She's stuck on something, needs me to clear her for something. She needs me to make a quick decision on something. So weekly one-on-one time, these can be 15 minutes. They could be 30 minutes. Sometimes they can be an hour. It depends on what your preference is and what you're trying to accomplish in that meeting. And then from there, we use Slack a lot. Because she's trying to keep my inbox empty for me, so her emailing me doesn't really accomplish that task. So we try and keep her out of email. So we Slack mostly, and then there's texting and calling are the probably the least ways with which we communicate. Is usually something's happening. It's a phone call, maybe if I'm traveling, or a text message if I'm out of the office and there's like something she needs me to know immediately. But that's what we've decided what works for us. And you know, all of the leaders inside of Belay, similar to you, Don, we gift every leader here has an executive assistant because we believe in the power of how it elevates our leaders. And we use this cadence throughout this, you know, one-on-one on a Monday morning, set your week ahead, Slack in between, calls and texts as needed. It works amazing.
Well, it's a fantastic business that you've created there. It's a great service to everybody watching this webinar. It's been incredible for me. In terms of the amount of time that it took me to adjust, I was thinking, you know, I'd heard 2 weeks to a month. Yeah, I'm not exaggerating, Tricia, when I say, looking back, it felt more like 1 hour. And what I mean is, once she had the login to my Gmail calendar, and she was able to read my email. I gave her the calendar first. She was able to read my email, but I didn't have her responding to email. That happened about 2 weeks later. Once she had that login, and she just sort of took over. And then it was almost like the training happened in real time. Don, how would you like me to respond to this? Or what sort of preference do you have on your flights, or those sorts of things? I would say it was about 60 minutes of handing the baton to somebody, and then that was it. Everything else after that was just easier and easier. And I know we've mentioned Slack and software and those sorts of things. What's really amazing about my assistant is they would actually, like at an all-staff meeting, say, Don, can I have your computer? They'd take my computer, they would install Slack, put it in the little, you know, in the dock, and then later say, hey, Don, I want you to hit this button. When you hit this button, I want you to hit this, and that's how we're going to communicate. I'm not even having to think about any of that stuff anymore. And so, you know, absolutely fantastic. Your assistant can do things like post for you on social media. You can literally take a photo, put it in a shared photo album, write a little post, and then they can actually take and figure out what day they want to post what based on what you're trying to do in your social media. So all of this stuff that's very complicated and time-consuming gets taken over. It's super fantastic. Okay, what can we expect as a final question? If people go to businessmadesimple.com/belay, if you go to businessmadesimple.com/belay, show that slide there. Right now, you can get started. And what I would encourage you to do is actually right now open another browser window. Go to businessmadesimple.com/belay, and it's going to walk you through getting started. I know how this works. If you wait till tomorrow, you're probably 50% more likely to not follow through on this. But if you actually go to businessmadesimple.com/belay and hit about 4 buttons, the process has started. You have officially jumped into the deep end, and you're going to be swimming tomorrow rather than thinking about the decision. I would say that financially, I'm in a unique position because I'm an entrepreneur, I own a company, and I have the opportunity to do things to make money. So take that into account. But I would say I got about a 20x return on the money that I paid for my virtual assistant in increased productivity, and bottom line, in increased revenue because of what I was able to do. So, that may not be true for you, but if you manage a company, run a company, own a company, and have the ability to make more sales calls or create more content or get together with more people that turns into more revenue, you're going to see an exponential return on your investment in a virtual assistant. So it's a good financial decision for you to do this. And the rates just aren't bad. I mean, I just don't think they're exorbitant at all. So fantastic opportunity for you there. Go to businessmadesimple.com/belay. Okay, Tricia, last question. When they do that, what can they expect over the next 30 days?
Yeah, so what'll happen is if you go and schedule a call with one of our team members, you will get on the phone with us. We'll have a quick discovery call to determine what your needs are. If you decide to move forward, we'll send you an agreement whenever you're ready, immediately. You sign the agreement and you moved directly to your client success consultant, who will be the person that'll walk through your discovery. And this will also be the person that will pick and choose your perfect virtual assistant for you. That, to Don's point, we like to take our time there. That will take about 4 or 5 days for us to choose the right person. And then as soon as we've done that, we're reaching out to schedule with you to get your kickoff call started. And then you're training, you're downloading, and you will feel relief-free within 14 days.
I love it. That's actually, well, I felt relief within about 61 minutes. So you beat that timeline.
Or 61 minutes.
Yeah, it was pretty great. Tricia, I'm you're a peer. You run a company. I run a company. I just want you to know I'm proud of you. What you've built over there has just been absolutely incredible. You're an American success story as far as I'm concerned. And it's inspiring to be with you. The 2,000, I mean, my goodness, 2,000 assistants that you are shepherding there and changing their lives, not to mention all the people like me, the leaders who need help. It's just fantastic. It's a great story. So go to businessmadesimple.com/belay to learn more about how to get started. We don't partner with very many companies. In fact, this is one of maybe 3 or 4 in the history of the company. We don't do affiliate kind of stuff as a practice. It's not part of our revenue stream. But we partnered with BELAY because we believe their product is life-changing. And it's also, I'm obsessed with helping small business owners make more money. And one of the best ways they can make more money is to free up their magic time to hit their priorities and get the things done that only they can do. And the best way to do that is with a virtual assistant. Tricia, such a pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you for bringing so much wisdom to our audience. I'm grateful to know you.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor and a privilege. I appreciate you, Don.
All right, Tricia, we're going to put up that slide, businessmadesimple.com/belay. And we'll leave that up. Go there. Make sure you do it now. Otherwise, you probably won't do it. And you're going to be like me, in about 4 years from now, you're going to do it. You wish you'd have done it 4 years before. There's literally millions of dollars that will be lost if you don't act soon, and if you wait another 6 months, 8 months on this. So make sure it happens. And Tricia, thanks so much for spending time with us.
Thanks, guys.
All right, everybody, go to businessmadesimple.com/belay. Grab a virtual assistant. Get started on that process right away. Thanks for watching today, and we'll see you again soon, I hope.